Hey everyone, and welcome to this video lecture. And as you can see, we are in the part 4 of this series for the chapter Body Fluids and Circulation. And I will be discussing previous year's NEET questions and explaining the answers. So I would suggest that you keep a paper and pen with you so that you can write down your answers as well as the explanation if you need to. Okay, so let's begin. Okay, so question number 1. The lymph serves to, we have the options A, B, C, and D, and this appeared in 1995. Okay, so I would suggest you pause the video, think about the answer, write it down, write down what you think is the right answer, and then we'll come back to the explanation. Okay, let's go through our options first. A, return the interstitial fluid to the blood. That is precisely what lymph does. Okay, precisely the function of the lymph. Return the WBCs and RBCs to the lymph nodes. No. Transport CO2 to the lungs. No. Transport O2 to the brain. No. So your answer should be A. So if you've written down A, that means you got the right answer. So let's look at the discussion. All right. So proteins and large particulate matter which cannot be reabsorbed by the blood vessels from the interstitial fluid space is diffused into the lymphatic vessels. Okay, if you watched part 3, I have explained this same principle to you where we spoke about lymph. So let's say if you have the blood vessel here, okay, and blood is flowing in from the arteries, okay, at very high pressure. So because of hydrostatic pressure, fluid will move out into the interstitial space. Okay, and let me take another color for lymph. This is lymph. Okay, this is lymph vessel. So the fluid present inside the lymph vessel is lymph. Okay, so fluid moves out into the interstitial space. Okay, now some of these proteins or particulate matter is reabsorbed back into the blood vessels. Okay, reabsorbed back into these blood vessels, that is into the blood again. But there are some proteins that are left behind. They cannot be reabsorbed by the blood. Okay, they cannot be reabsorbed by the blood. Hence, they get reabsorbed, as in they diffuse into the lymph vessels. Okay, they diffuse into the lymph vessels, and this lymph vessels then form a connection back into the blood. So if you study the lymphatic system, you will know how the lymph vessels go back into the blood circulatory system. So these proteins or particulate matter are transported back into the blood. That is the whole point of this lymph system. So for example, if the lymph system was damaged or it did not exist, then you would die within 24 hours. So lymph system is a very important part of our circulatory system. Okay, so this is precisely what lymph does. Okay, I hope this was clear because I've explained this in my previous lecture also, that is part 3. Okay, so please check out part 3 of the series. Okay, let's move on to that. Yeah, blood is responsible for transporting O2 and CO2, right? So you understood now what is the job of lymph. Okay, so this was again a direct question. I mean, if you knew what the function of lymph was, if you read NCERT, and it's mentioned over there also, so this should have been easy to answer. Okay, let's move on to the next question. Question number 2. Lymph differs from blood in possessing, and this appeared in 1989. Okay, and you have A, B, C, and D. Again, pause the video and write down what you think is the right answer, then come back to the discussion. All right. Okay, so let's go through our options. Lymph differs from blood in possessing only WBC, more RBC and WBC, more RBC and few WBC, more WBC and few RBC. Clearly, lymph does not have RBC. So more RBC wherever, let me take another pen. Can't see that in white. More RBC, few RBCs, no. It's clearly only WBC. Okay, and we'll see how. So your answer should have been A. Okay, let's move on to the discussion. Okay, so I think I've also again explained this in the previous video lecture. So after pre-processing, T and B lymphocytes, they are stored in the lymphoid tissues. Okay, so T lymphocytes, the pre-processing is done in the thymus. Okay, it's done in the thymus. And for B lymphocytes, it's done in the liver and bone marrow. Okay, so what happens is, now lymphocytes, they have the ability to circulate between lymph and blood. Okay, so they keep circulating between lymph and blood. Okay, this is lymph, this is blood, and lymphocytes keep circulating. Okay, every few hours they keep circulating. Okay, lymphocytes, they keep circulating, and they are also stored in the lymphoid tissues and organs. Okay, these lymphocytes are also stored in the tissues and lymphoid tissues and the organs. Okay, like the lymph nodes. So in case there is an infection ever, they are exposed to that antigen, the pathogens. These lymphocytes are exposed to the, like the T and B are exposed to those pathogens, and they begin to proliferate. Okay, they increase in number to fight against that pathogen. Okay, so they increase in number. B lymphocytes will start forming memory B cells, and they will also form plasma cells which form antibodies also. Okay, so they proliferate, so therefore they can fight against that infection. So they increase in the number of cells. You will find many WBCs floating around in the lymph. Okay. So again, this was a direct question. This shouldn't have been very difficult to answer if you knew the lymph system, and some of it is also dealing with human health and disease. So if you knew that chapter also, you would have been able to answer this question. Okay, let's move on to the next one. All right. Okay, so question number 3. The QRS complex in the standard ECG represents, okay, and this was pretty recent, this is NEET 2020. All right, so again, pause the video, think about the answer, and then come back. Let's go through our options. The QRS complex in a standard ECG represents repolarization of auricles, depolarization of auricles, depolarization of ventricles, repolarization of ventricles. So the QRS complex represents clearly depolarization of ventricles. So QRS is the big curve, okay, in that ECG that you see. So it's QRS. I will come to that graph, okay, so that you can see the graph. So depolarization of ventricles represents is as the QRS complex in the ECG graph. We'll come to the graph, so then you'll be able to understand. So clearly the answer is C. All right. So if you written down C, you got the right answer. We'll come to the explanation for this. Okay, so QRS complex represents the depolarization of ventricles before contraction, like I told you. All right, so repolarization of auricles also occurs. See, there's repolarization of auricles that also occurs, but that is not the QRS complex. Okay, this is just extra piece of information for you guys. Repolarization of auricle occurs at the end of T wave and is known as atrial T wave. Okay, so yeah, this is what I wanted to show you. So you have the PQRST graph here. Okay, you have the PQRST graph here. Okay, this is another PQRST, but we'll just look at one. So you have your P wave here, then you have your Q, R, S, and then you have your T wave. Like I said, repolarization of auricles also occurs. That occurs at the end of the at the end of the P wave. Okay, but this is just extra piece of information for you guys to understand. Doesn't mean that repolarization of auricles doesn't occur. It does occur but it is at the end of P wave, but it is not very significant because of this QRS wave. The magnitude of QRS wave is quite big as compared to the atrial T wave. Alright, that is why it is not very visible here in the graph. Alright, so that is why you only have PQRST wave. Okay, so you just need to remember for your exam, you need to remember what P means, what QRS complex means, what T wave means. Okay, these are the important points. Alright. Okay, so again, this was very direct. Okay, because let's go back to the question. Yeah. So QRS wave. Yeah, it was a very direct question. Just asked you what the QRS complex means. So that was quite obvious. Depolarization of ventricles. That's what you just need to remember what P means, what QRS means, what T means. You're good to go. Okay, let's move on to the next question. Question number 1. Oh. All right. Match the column 1 with column 2. So you have column 1 and column 2 to match the columns. That's pretty simple set of instructions. And this appeared in NEET 2019. Okay, this was again quite recent. Yeah, so P wave. P wave represents what? Depolarization of atria. Wave represents depolarization of atria. QRS complex represents depolarization of ventricles, right? We just discussed that. I don't think you have such a bad memory, you'll forget that. At least you remember that. T wave is repolarization of ventricles. Okay, so the T wave that you see in the PQRST wave graph, it is a repolarization of ventricles. And reduction in the size of T wave. Now, what is reduction in the size? Now we know T wave is repolarization of ventricles. So reduction in the size of the T wave means something is wrong with the T wave. That means something is going wrong with the repolarization of ventricles. Okay, let's look at it logically. Okay, let's look at it. Now we have only 2 options left. We have 3 and we have 5. We have either coronary ischemia, and we have repolarization of atria. Okay, we have these 2 options. Now, is it repolarization of atria? I just spoke to you about repolarization of atria, right? The atrial T wave. So, what is the other option? Reduction in the size of T wave, coronary ischemia. Okay, so it will be D3. So, what would be our option here? We have A4, B1, C2, D3. Okay, so it's option B. See, they're so smart in this. B and C are almost the same except for the last. Okay, so the new students are going to get stuck in this. Okay, the candidates who are sitting for the exam are going to get stuck in this. So if you knew P wave, QRS complex, T wave, and you understood the concept behind that, then answering D should have been simple. It can't be repolarization of atria. I've already spoken to you about repolarization, so you can note it down in your notebooks what it means. But reduction the size of T wave would be coronary ischemia. Okay. So your answer is B. Alright. Let's go to the discussion. Okay. Now what is ischemia? Ischemia is when there is insufficient blood flow to the cardiac muscles. Okay. So this is the artery leading to the muscle. Okay, muscle cell. Now, if there is a blockage here, there will be insufficient blood flow. Correct? There will be insufficient blood flow. So because of that, the cardiac muscle will be affected. Okay. So how does it get affected? Causes slowing down of metabolism. Right? Makes sense. There's not enough blood flow to that muscle. Now this is due to lack of oxygen, right? Excess accumulation of CO2 and lack of sufficient food nutrients. Okay, so this insufficient blood flow to the cardiac muscle, which is ischemia, coronary ischemia, it causes slowing down of the metabolism. Okay, and this is due to these reasons. Now I'm explaining ischemia to you, but please keep in mind it's not really mentioned in NCERT, and I don't want you to go too much into detail about what ECG is and how that whole graph is prepared or it is produced when an actual patient on which the ECG is performed. But this is just to be able to help you how that reduction in the size of T wave leads to coronary ischemia. How does that connection form? Okay, because it is there in the question. Now clearly, if you let's go back to the question. Clearly, if you knew ABC, then D should have been very easy. Correct? D should have been very easy. It's coronary ischemia. It can't be repolarization of atria. So what you do, you use the method of elimination. If you get stuck over here, use the method of elimination. Okay, you know what T wave is, you know what QRS is, what T wave is, and clearly the reduction in the size of T wave is nothing to do with repolarization of atria. Okay, it is coronary ischemia. Okay, but I will explain to you what it is. But if you don't understand, it's okay, it's fine, because you just for the sake of NEET, you need to understand what T wave is, what QRS is, and what T wave is. But I will explain this reduction, this ischemia, and the reduction in the size of T wave. Okay, but it's okay if you get confused. It's all right. It's normal. All right. So yeah, there is lack of oxygen, excess accumulation of CO2, and lack of sufficient food nutrients. Okay. Now, hence, when there is severe myocardial ischemia, okay, repolarization cannot occur in those areas. Okay, repolarization does not occur in that area. Okay, when there's severe myocardial ischemia. Clearly, with the T wave is abnormal, reduction in the size of T wave, or there's a change in the graph and how the normal T wave looks. You know what a normal T wave looks and what a reduction in size or a tall T wave or an inverted T wave would look like. It is different from the normal. That means something is wrong with the person's heart, right? So it is an abnormal T wave. And so an abnormal T wave is when the normal sequence of repolarization does not occur. That means the normal repolarization of ventricles. Okay, repolarization of ventricles does not occur. That means you see an abnormal T wave. Okay, something is wrong. If due to ischemia. Now we will go into a little bit of detail, but I will go through the text, the theory, before I show you what it means. If due to ischemia, the base of the ventricles exhibit a short period of depolarization, then repolarization will also occur first there instead of the apex of the ventricles as it normally does. It's okay if you're not understood this, but I will explain it to you. Okay, I just want you to go through this theory first before I go into the explanation. Okay, so if the base of the ventricle, that means at the base of the ventricle, okay, let's see if this is your ventricle. Okay, so left and your right ventricle. Okay, so this is considered the base part. This is the apex. Okay, this is what I mean by the base. And this is septum. That is segregating both the ventricles. Okay, so if this is the ventricle, this part is the base, this is called the apex, and this is the septum. So if the base of the ventricles exhibit a short period of depolarization, that means repolarization will also happen quickly over here. Okay, and that means the vector will change. So instead of the repolarization will occur first here instead of here. Now what happens usually? I will come to that. Normally what happens is when depolarization of ventricles occur, it starts from here and it moves down. Okay, let me take another pen. It starts from here, the left side, and it will move down the body of the ventricle and down. This is happening for both. Okay, I'm just showing the left ventricle part. Starts from the left side and it will go down. Okay, it will go down till the apex. That's how repolarization of all these muscle cells. This is the direction in which the repolarization is occurring. Okay, this is normal. Now, for example, if the repolarization is for a short period over here, then depolarization is for a short period over. Repolarization will also happen quickly here. Now, repolarization in a normal functioning heart is from here. Okay, take another pen. This red pen that you see here, that is repolarization. Depolarization is this way, repolarization, the direction in which the vector in which the repolarization occurs is from the apex to the top, and depolarization occurs from the septum coming down, base septum, and then coming down. Usually it's from the left side over here and then it will come down. Okay, so if depolarization has occurred here because of ischemia, then repolarization will also occur here. That means it will not appear, it will not come down like this, it will not as in go up from here to there. Okay, that means the whole vector direction will change. So instead of this repolarization, if you see the red pen, the red arrows here, that means repolarization will start occurring like this. Okay, if there is a problem here, okay, at the base. So what happens is when you see an ECG graph, you get an inverted graph. You will not get a positive graph because the vector has changed. Now vector magnitude, please speak to your physics teacher about that. So direction has changed. Okay, if you want to study in detail vectors and magnitude, please speak to your physics teacher about this. So the direction has changed. Usually it is from the apex to the top, but here now, since depolarization has occurred here quickly and repolarization also occurs here quickly, this direction of repolarization will change in case there is a problem here at the base of the ventricle. Okay, now I've just given you a short theory on what this piece of information meant. Okay, but don't worry, you will study all this in detail in MBBS and in MD, because this is a lot of information for now. Again, like I said, this will change the direction of the vector, thus resulting in an opposite flow of the vector. So it will be an opposite to the normal repolarization vector. So the repolarization of ventricle usually occurs like this. So this is the T wave. We are all aware of that. We've seen a normal ECG. So if there's an ischemia, then it will be an inverted T wave. Now this is that ischemia when I'm talking about at the base. That is depolarization, repolarization is occurring quickly at the base. It could be anywhere in the heart. And there are many electrodes that are put on your chest, on your body, okay, and other parts of the body too, okay, where it will catch electrical signals from your heart, okay, to see how it is functioning. So that is a very detailed concept. We will not go into that. I have just given you one example of what a distorted T wave would look like, okay, if there's an ischemia. Okay, so you see this. So now, as per your question, reduction in the size of T wave, yes, it can change. It could be less, it could be tall, it could be inverted, it could be anything. So this is an abnormal T wave, and this abnormal T wave is usually seen in the case of coronary ischemia. Okay, this is a fact. You should understand this and move on. Okay, so don't worry about this in too much detail. Okay, like I said, if you get stuck in such a question, just use the process of elimination and move on. Okay, because for that to use process of elimination, it's very important that you understand what T wave means, QRS means, what T wave means actually means. But I will show you quickly. Okay, now I'm using lead 2 of ECG. Now don't worry what it means. It's like bipolar, as in there are 2 charge electrodes that I'm using, and one is placed on my right hand and one on my left foot. Okay, there are two electrodes. Just imagine there's a person, there are two electrodes. Right hand, one is placed on the right hand and one is placed on the left foot. Okay, we'll only stick to ventricles. Okay, you have the ventricle. Okay, so this is your left ventricle, LV. This is your right ventricle. Clear? I've already explained to you in the previous slide. Normal depolarization. The wave will move down. Okay, will move down. Okay, it will move down. It has moved down. This is the apex. This is the base side. Okay, it will move down like this. Now this depolarization wave is a positive wave. Okay, it is a positive wave. Okay, so anytime if there is a positive charge moving towards the positive electrode, you will get a positive wave. Okay, you will get a positive wave. Now we will speak about the repolarization part. Repolarization happens the opposite way. Okay, I'll choose another one. The green one. So repolarization happens the opposite way. Now repolarization is a negative charge and it is moving this way. Okay, it is moving towards the negative electrode. So this is the vector moving towards the negative electrode. Okay, any charge, any negative charge moving towards the negative electrode, you will get a positive wave. Now this positive wave, negative wave, all these magnitudes, they appear in a instrument called the galvanometer. Okay, they appear in a galvanometer. So repolarization is appearing this way. Negative charge, it is moving towards the negative electrode, you will get a positive graph. Okay, you will get a positive graph. Now you understood how repolarization is occurring, just for your information. Now just imagine if there was a problem here. Okay, there was a problem here. Yeah. Okay, that means depolarization happened quickly here, repolarization also happened quickly here. Correct? That means now it will start moving this way. The whole direction will change of the repolarization. Now you see this orange line, repolarization direction will change. That means the negative charge is moving towards the positive electrode. Okay, the negative charge is moving. Repolarization means negative charge. Depolarization is positive. Okay, remember this. Depolarization means positive charge and repolarization is negative charge. Okay, we're talking about repolarization now. So it is moving towards the negative charge, is moving towards the positive electrode. That means it is moving away from the negative electrode. That means you will get an inverted T wave. Okay, you will get an inverted T wave. This is only one example. Okay, there can be many cases. Okay, and I have only given you a brief, but please don't break your head on this. Okay, don't break your head on this. It's okay if you understood. If you are not understood also, it's fine. It is good if you understood it, but it's all right. Okay, it is all right. Also, one more thing, there could be a nice question regarding this ECG, how it is measured. It is measured using a galvanometer. You can get an MCQ from this. Okay, this is a good piece of information to remember. You can note it down in your notebooks. Okay, so we have spoken about depolarization and repolarization. So now you understand how the graph is formed, like a T wave and an inverted T wave. But like I said, it is not very relevant to NEET. This is just extra piece of information and it's okay if you ignore it. But yeah, to answer your question, you could have used the method of elimination and answered it. Okay, let's move on to the next question. All right, so we have question 5. What would be the heart rate of a person if the cardiac output is 5 liters? Blood volume in the ventricles at the end of diastole is 100 ml and at the end of ventricular systole is 50 ml. And this appeared in NEET 2019. Okay, again I would suggest you pause the video and I think you need to do some calculations here and then come back and see the answer. So yeah, let's see what we have with us, the information that we have. We have cardiac output as 5 liters. We have end diastole volume that is 100 ml and we have end systole volume that is 50 ml. Okay, and we need to find out the heart rate of a person. And how are you going to do that? So let's understand what end diastole volume means. So just imagine the ventricles as a container. Okay, it's like a container and there is blood filling in. So diastole means relaxed position of the ventricle. Now the blood is flowing into the ventricle. So the volume inside that ventricle at the end of diastole. That means after it is all filled in at the end of diastole, what is the volume of the ventricle? Simple, that's end diastole volume. Similarly, when end systole volume, blood moves out. Okay, blood is pumped out of the ventricles. So what is the volume remaining inside at the end of the systole? Okay, what is the volume remaining inside the end of systole? So that is end systole volume. Okay, that is end systole volume. Okay, simple. This is a very simple thing. Now, how will we use that information to get the heart rate of a person? We have something called a stroke volume. Okay, the stroke volume is the amount of blood that is pumped out by each ventricle in one heartbeat. Okay, in one beat, how much of blood is pumped out by each ventricle. Now to calculate that, we need end systole and end diastole volume, which we have with us. So what would the stroke volume be? 100 minus 50, which is 50 ml. Now blood has moved in, right? That we have the end diastole volume in a container, blood has moved in. Blood is pumped out also, so we have the end systole volume. So you subtract the two, you will get the stroke volume. You see how much blood has been pumped out. Simple, this is simple maths, okay, algebra. So you will get the stroke volume. Okay, that is the blood that is pumped out by the ventricles in one heartbeat. Okay, now we have the cardiac output with us, which is 5 liters. Now cardiac output, cardiac output is equal to stroke volume, that's SV, into heartbeat. Okay, cardiac output is the amount of blood that is being pumped out of the heart in 1 minute. Okay, this is in 1 minute. Cardiac output is equal to the amount of blood that is being pumped out in 1 minute. Okay, it is equal to stroke volume into heartbeat. Just learn this formula. Okay, simple. Just learn this formula. So now we have stroke volume, we have cardiac output, we can find the heartbeat. Simple. So heartbeat would be, cardiac output will be 5 liters. So you need to convert that to ml. Divide by 50. So you have 100. Okay, so you have 100 beats per minute. Okay, you have 100 beats per minute. So your answer should have been D. Yeah. Answer should have been D. Simple. This was a simple problem. If you knew what cardiac output means, what end of diastole, end of systole volume, what they mean, you will get the answer. Okay, this all these definitions, the cardiac output definition and stroke volume definition is mentioned in NCERT, so please read. Okay, although I think end of diastole and end of ventricular systole, those definitions aren't present, but now you know, and now you know what is the relation of that with the stroke volume. Okay, so this was there, it was a good question, deserves a smiley face. Okay, but yeah, you need to understand the definitions before you answer this question. All right. Okay, so let's look at the discussion. I've already discussed that end diastole volume and systole volume. For the stroke volume 50 ml, cardiac output, you know the formula, and you get the heart rate. All right, so this was it was simple, right? Okay, let's move on to the next question. All right, question number 6. Match the items given in column 1 with those in column 2 and select the correct option given below. So you have column 1 and column 2 and you need to match them. So this appeared in NEET 2018. Okay, let's match them now. Tricuspid valve. Tricuspid valve appears in the right atrium and the right ventricle. Bicuspid valve, left atrium and left ventricle. Semilunar valve between right ventricle and pulmonary artery. So you have A3, B1, C2. So answer should be A. Yeah. So the answer is A. So if you've written down A, then means you've got the right answer. Let's look at the explanation. Yeah. So tricuspid valve is present between right auricle and right ventricle. Again, these are facts. This is present in NCERT. Please read the chapter properly. You will be able to answer. This is very simple. This was a very simple question. This was better than that T wave, the reduction in T wave. That was a little bit complicated, but you could have solved that also easily using a trick. This is quite obvious. This you should know. Okay, so this is very simple. Bicuspid valve is present between left auricle and left ventricle. Semilunar valves present between the right ventricle and pulmonary artery, also present between the left ventricle and aorta. Okay, yeah. So here you have a diagram of the heart, and you can see the tricuspid valve here, and then you have the mitral valve, that is also called, that's another name for bicuspid. Okay, so if you see mitral valve, you know it's bicuspid valve. Okay, and that is over here. Yeah, and you have the semilunar valves. You have the pulmonary valve, so called the pulmonary valve, and this is the aortic valve here. Okay, so this diagram is just to show you where these valves are located. So it is important to understand the anatomy of the heart. Okay, this is a simple question. It shouldn't have been very difficult to answer this question. All right, let's move on to the next one. Okay. Question number 7. Doctors use stethoscope to hear the sounds produced during each cardiac cycle. The second sound is heard when, again pause the video, think about the answer and come back. So this appeared in 2015. So you have AV node receives signal from SA node, no. AV valves open up, no. Ventricular valves vibrate due to gushing in of blood from atria, no. Semilunar valves close down after the blood flows into vessels from ventricles. Yes, this is the right answer. So the second sound, said the second sound is heard when semilunar walls close down after the blood flows into vessels from ventricles. Okay, so your answer is D. Okay, this is simple. This also again is there in NCERT. Please read that part and you should have been able to answer this easily. Okay, let's look at the explanation. So first sound, that's called lub. The first sound that you hear is lub. It's associated with the closure of the mitral valve and the tricuspid valves, the bicuspid valve and tricuspid valves. Okay. The second sound, dub, lub dub. Okay, lub dub, you keep hearing that, right? When you put a stethoscope. The sound is associated with the closure of semilunar valves. Okay. So when the valves close, the closing of the flaps and the surrounding fluids vibrate due to change in pressure. So the closing of the flap and that surrounding fluids, they vibrate due to that pressure change. Okay, and this causes the sound to travel through the chest. That's how when you put the stethoscope, you can hear that sound. Okay, so the closing of the flaps and that pressure change, which cause the fluids to vibrate, they cause the sound to travel through the chest. Okay, that is why you can hear the sound. This is just to help you understand why you keep listening to this lub dub sound. Okay, so this was again simple. This is there in NCERT. You should have been able to answer this question quite easily. There shouldn't have any problem. So let's move on. Alright, question number 8. This appeared in 2015 cancelled exam. Blood pressure in the mammalian aorta is maximum during A. Systole of the left ventricle, B. Diastole of the right atrium, C. Systole of the left atrium, D. Diastole of the right ventricle. So when is the blood pressure maximum? Obviously during the systole time. And where? Mammalian aorta. So that is systole of the left ventricle. Again, you need to understand the anatomy. If you don't understand the anatomy, you will not be able to answer this question. Okay, so you need to understand the structure of the heart very well, like the walls, like we saw in the previous question. Similarly, over here also, you should have been able to answer this if you understood the anatomy and the physiology, okay, of the circulation in the heart. So your answer is A, clearly. Okay, this is a pretty direct question. Let's look at the explanation. So when left ventricle contracts, the pressure increases rapidly until the aortic valve opens. So after the valves open, pressure rises much less rapidly. So pressure initially rises quickly, and then once the aortic valves open, okay, pressure rises less rapidly. Okay, rises less rapidly, and this pushes the blood out into the aorta. So the blood flows out immediately out of the ventricles and into the aorta, and then into the systemic distribution, of course. And the entry of blood into the aorta in the arteries causes the walls to stretch and pressure to increase to 120 mm. Okay, so the pressure over there is 120 mm mercury. Even at the end of systole, okay, after the blood has ejected out, that means after the blood has been removed from the ventricles, the aortic valves flow, the arteries still maintain that high pressure, okay, because the blood is flowing through the artery, so it still maintains the high pressure, and then slowly it will decrease. Okay, so even at the end of systole, after the blood has moved out, after the aortic valves have closed down, the arteries still maintain that pressure for some time, okay, till the blood flows out, and then it will come down to the normal pressure, the diastole pressure. Alright, so this was an extra piece of information for you guys, but ideally, yeah, you need to just understand that at the mammalian aorta the pressure is high because of the systole of the left ventricle. Okay, for that you need to understand the anatomy and the physiology. Okay, again, this was a simple question, shouldn't have been difficult. Okay, let's move on to the next one. Again, you have ECG. ECG is NEET's favorite question. The diagram given here is the standard ECG of a normal person. The P wave represents, okay, this is pretty direct. P wave represents, come on guys, it's appeared in NEET 2013. You have the beginning of the systole, end of systole, contraction of both the atria, initiation of the ventricular contraction. So what would be the right answer? P wave represents depolarization of atria. Okay, of atria. Okay, so represents the contraction of both the atria. So before contraction, the atria depolarize and then they contract. Okay, so the answer is C. The answer is C over here. Okay, so this was again pretty simple. Like I told you, you need to understand what P wave means. P wave, QRS, T wave, all that. All those definitions should be clear in your head. Then you can answer these questions. Okay, let's look at the discussion. Yeah. So P wave is caused when the atria depolarize before atrial contraction begins. QRS wave is caused when the ventricles depolarize before the ventricle contraction begins. And T wave is caused when the ventricles recover from the state of depolarization and is known as repolarization wave. Okay, again, you need to remember these definitions and then you are good to go. Okay, let's move on to the next question. Yeah. Alright, question number 10. Bundle of His is a part of which one of the following organs in humans? And this appeared in 2011. So you have A, B, C and D. You have brain, heart, kidney, pancreas. Bundle of His clearly is in the heart. This is direct. This should have been very easy for you guys. Bundle of His, again you have to study the anatomy. It is there in NCERT. It's nicely explained in NCERT. So this is an important topic to read. Alright, let's look at the discussion. So now this is the definition in NCERT. A bundle of nodal fibers, AV bundle. So the bundle is called AV bundle. And nodal fibers are fibers that exhibit neural and muscular properties. Okay, they behave like neural and muscular fibers. They continue from the AVN. So you have the AV node, right? And they pass through the atrioventricular septa to emerge on the top of the interventricular septum. Okay, and immediately divides into a right and left bundle. Okay, they immediately divide into right and left bundle. Now, this right and left bundle, they branch and give rise to minute fibers throughout the ventricular musculature of the respective sites and are called Purkinje fibers. Okay, these fibers along with right and left bundles are known as bundle of His. So this Purkinje fibers along with that right and left bundle, let's say, yeah, right and left bundle. So you have the right plus left bundle plus the Purkinje fibers. They together are called bundle of His. Important to understand the anatomy because this is there in NCERT. The same thing is there in NCERT. Okay, so it's important to understand this bundle of His. Okay, let's look at a diagram. Yeah, so this is taken from NCERT. So please remember this diagram. This is very important. Okay, so you have AV node here and it is moving through the atria and ventricular septum and then into the interventricular septa over here. Okay, and it divides into the left and right branch. Okay, and this then gives rise to Purkinje fibers over here. See this Purkinje fibers here. So now what is the bundle of His? This part. Okay, this part, I mean this branch here and these Purkinje fibers here. Okay, this together is called bundle of His. Alright, so now I've explained, I've showed you how the anatomy works here in the heart, and you should be good to go in answering the question. Although the question was quite simple, it just asked you where it is located, which organ. Clearly we're talking about the heart, it is the heart, but if they ask you a more detailed question like what is included in bundle of His, so you know that Purkinje fibers and this left and right branch. Okay, so this is what forms a part of the bundle of His. Okay, otherwise it's quite simple question. So direct question, right? Let's go back. Yeah, bundle of His is part of which one of the following organs in humans? Heart. Clearly simple. Okay, let's move on to the next question then. Okay, question number 11. Given below is the ECG of a normal human. Again, an ECG question. Which one of its components is correctly interpreted below? So you have the PQRST graph. This appeared in mains 2011. So you have A, B, C, and D. So A is complex QRS, one complete pulse. So QRS does represent one complete pulse. QRS complex is the depolarization of what? Guys, wake up. Of what? Ventricles. Okay, QRS complex represents one complete pulse. Now you do understand what pulse is. We'll come to that. Peak T, initiation of total cardiac contraction, no. Peak P and peak R together, systolic and diastolic blood pressures, no. Peak P, initiation of left atrial contraction only, no. So clearly A is the right answer. Means the other B, C and D are wrong. You have to correctly interpret. That was the job. Correctly interpret. So answer A. Okay, then we'll come to what the complex QRS means. Okay, so let's look at the definition of pulse, and this is in Gannon, textbook for human physiology. The author is Gannon and he's written a book on human physiology. So this definition is from there. Don't worry, you'll come across this when you study MBBS. Okay, the blood forced into the aorta during systole not only moves the blood in the vessels forward but also sets up a pressure wave that travels along the arteries. Because the blood that's forced into the aorta during systole, that means the ventricular contraction. Okay, the left ventricular contraction not only moves the blood in the vessels forward but also develops a pressure wave. Okay, like sound waves, light waves, you have a pressure wave. Again, speak to your physics teacher about this. So what are pressure waves? So sets up a pressure wave that travels along the arteries. Now this pressure wave, they expand the atria. Okay, atrial walls. Okay, they expand the atrial walls as it travels. Not atrial, sorry, arterial walls. I don't know why am I saying atrial walls. I think too much of heart. So the pressure wave expands the arterial walls as it travels, and this expansion is palpable. That means you can feel it. Okay, you can feel that pressure wave. Okay, you can feel the pressure wave. Now you know what I'm talking about when I talk about pulse. Okay, so the QRS complex. Okay, this is your P wave. This is your T wave. Okay, the QRS complex represents the depolarization of ventricles. Of ventricles. Correct? That means systole of ventricles is happening. That means the ventricles are contracting and pushing the blood out into the aorta, and the blood moves in the arteries and creates a pressure wave. Now this pressure wave expands the arterial walls, the walls, okay, of the arteries. Okay, and this expansion can be felt. Okay, it is a palpable expansion. Okay, that can be felt. So that is why the QRS represents a pulse. Again, this could have been very easy to answer because now you know what QRS means, right? You know what QRS means. QRS means when depolarization of ventricles happen. The depolarization happens before contraction of ventricle. That means the blood is being pumped out. Then you can feel a pulse. Okay, the blood is being pumped out into the systemic circulation and you can feel a pulse. Okay, so the pulse is felt in the radial artery. Okay, the pulse is felt of the wrist at 0.1 second after the peak of systolic injecting into the aorta. Okay, so you can feel this pulse in the radial artery after 0.1 second, okay, of the systolic ejection of the blood into the aorta. Okay, now radial artery, you can feel it here. It is there in your wrist. Okay, you can just put your tip of your finger here and you can feel your pulse. Okay, you can even measure the pulse for 1 minute. How many pulses do you feel? Okay, so yeah, I'm feeling my pulse here. Yeah, precisely here where my thumb is. I hope you can see. Okay, so this is where the radial artery that you can feel at the wrist. Okay, so when you go to a doctor, the doctor will check your pulse. Okay, so yeah, this was again simple. This now you've understood what pulse means. Okay, so you can understand what pulse means, and you should have been able to answer the question. Clearly the other options were wrong. To go back to the question, which is our whole point of this presentation, B, C and D were incorrect. C was also incorrect, D was also incorrect. So only A that made sense, okay, with respect to this diagram. So answer should have been A. Okay, so let's move on to our next question. Okay, question number 12. If due to some injury the chordae tendineae of the tricuspid valve of the human heart is partially non-functional, what will be the immediate effect? Okay, and this appeared in 2010. So you have options A, B, C and D. Again, pause the video, write down what you think is the right answer and come back. Alright, A. So we know the chordae tendineae or the tricuspid valve is injured. So flow of blood into the aorta will be slowed down. No. Pacemaker will stop working. No. Blood will tend to flow back into the left atrium. No. Flow of blood into the pulmonary artery will be reduced. Yes. So the answer is D. Okay, the answer is D. The biggest clue was tricuspid valve. Okay, tricuspid valve is not present on the left side, it's present on the right side of the heart. That's why I said it's important to learn the anatomy very well. See, you got so many questions related to the anatomy of the heart. So if you knew this very well, you could have answered this question. Okay, it's present between the right atria and the right ventricle. Okay, so what happens if it is injured? If the chordae tendineae is injured, the flow of blood in the pulmonary artery will be reduced. We'll come to the explanation for this question. So chordae tendineae connects the papillary muscles to the veins of the valves. That means the flaps of the valves. Okay, the valves, they have flaps. So the chordae tendineae connects the papillary muscles to those flaps. So when the papillary muscles contract, when the ventricular muscles contract, walls contract. Okay, so the ventricles walls contract, the papillary muscles also contract, and they pull those veins inward. Okay, they pull those veins inwards towards the ventricles. Okay, so this is your ventricle, to pull inwards. Okay, pull inwards. Now this is what happens, okay, when the papillary muscles contract. Now if the chordae tendineae is ruptured, okay, like our question says, if it is injured, the veins of the walls will bulge backwards, and to the extent that blood leaks severely, leading to improper blood flow. So now normal, we've seen inward. Okay, so that means when the papillary muscles contract, it will be inward. So if there's an injury of the chordae tendineae which connects the papillary muscles to the veins of the walls, it will be like this. So there will be backflow. There will be backflow of blood into the atria. Okay, there will be backflow of blood into the atria, and so there will be leaking, and so there will be improper blood flow. Clearly, we are talking about the tricuspid valve. So tricuspid valve is on the right side. So the right side atria and ventricle. So blood will flow from the right atrium to the right ventricle. If this is injured, the chordae tendineae is injured, then there will not be enough blood flow to the pulmonary artery. So blood will flow back into the right atrium, not the left atrium. Okay, that was a trick. It's the right atrium, and so there will be reduced blood flow in the pulmonary artery. This is a very primitive diagram, but this is the pulmonary artery, and blood flow will usually happen like that from the ventricle. But instead of that, there will be a backflow back into the right atrium. So that is a problem. So because of that, let's go back to our question. Flow of blood in the pulmonary artery will be reduced. Yes, of course. Again, for this question, you need to understand the anatomy clearly, anatomy of the heart. It was very simple. It was a simple question. You could have easily answered this, but you need to understand the anatomy. Okay. Yeah. So this is clearly stating what I just said. The tricuspid wall is present in the right atrial ventricular septum. As the chordae tendineae is damaged, then there will be a backflow of blood from the ventricles to the auricles, leading to reduction in the flow of blood into the pulmonary artery. Okay, this clearly explains my answer, okay, that I just explained. Oops. Alright, so yeah, this is just a diagram just to show you what the wall looks like now, but I just found a diagram of the mitral wall. It's not the tricuspid wall. So you see the cuspias. So yeah, you can see the chordae tendineae over here. See, chordae tendineae here. This is the papillary muscles, and this is the wall inside. Okay, and blood is flowing. It's black line. You see, the blood is flowing like this. Okay, this is the cusp over here. This is chordae tendineae here. Okay, and this is the aortic wall. Okay, this is the flow of blood like this. Okay, so this is just to help you understand what exactly does it look like, how is it connected. Alright, so yeah. Alright, so question number 13. In a standard ECG, which one of the following alphabets is the correct representation of the respective activity of the human heart? And this appeared in 2009. Again, ECG question. So you see how important ECG is. So you have your options A, B, C and D. S, start of systole. T, end of diastole. P, depolarization of atria. R, repolarization of ventricles. So clearly it is P, depolarization of the atria. So your answer should be C. And this was a direct question. Like I have already told you, you need to understand what PQRST, what each of those waves mean. You should be good to go. You can answer all the questions. Also, P is depolarization of the atria. Clearly the others are wrong. They don't make sense. Okay, so let's move on to the explanation. Again, it's the same explanation. P wave is caused when the atria depolarize before the atrial contraction begins, and QRS wave is caused when the ventricles depolarize before the ventricle contraction begins, and T wave is caused when the ventricles recover from the state of depolarization and is known as repolarization wave. Again, you learn these definitions, that's enough. Okay. Okay, so we have question number 14. In humans, blood passes from the postcaval to the diastolic right atrium of heart due to, again, think about the question, pause the video, think about the question, write down the answer and then come back. Okay, this appeared in 2008. Let's go through the options. A, stimulation of the sino-auricular node, that's SA node. Pressure difference between the postcaval and atrium. C, pushing open of the venous walls. D, suction pull. Clearly it is pressure difference. That's how blood flow happens, right? Blood flow will move from high pressure to low pressure region. Okay, so postcaval is the vena cava and it is moving to the diastolic right atrium, okay, because of pressure difference. Okay, so there's a pressure difference between the postcable and the atrium, due to which blood passes. This is a physiological answer. So yeah, if you understood physiology of the heart, you should have been able to answer this question. Okay. Again, you need to read cardiac cycle and how it works. Then it shouldn't have been a problem in answering this question. So answer clearly is B. Let's go to the explanation. So under normal conditions, okay, the normal functioning heart, okay, pressure in the vena cava is 7 mm mercury, okay, and the diastolic right atrium, it is 0 mm mercury. Clearly you see a pressure difference. Okay, so if you have, let's look at the right atrium like a container, and this vena cava is connected to that. Okay, so here the pressure is 7 mm mercury and here it is 0 mm mercury. So since there's a pressure gradient formed, blood will move in, okay, from high pressure to low pressure. That was the question, the diastolic right atrium. Okay, so diastolic right atrium has 0 mm mercury, whereas veins have 7 mm mercury pressure. Okay, and so because this pressure gradient is formed, blood will move from high pressure to low pressure. This was simple to understand, right? You've seen pressure gradient, you've understood the whole process, right? You've seen diffusion also, how it works from high pressure to low pressure. So this was a simple logic. Now this pressure that I spoke about in the vena cava is medically known as mean systemic filling pressure. Okay, and this pressure is measured everywhere in the systemic circulation. Okay, this is extra piece of information. Don't worry, you don't have to learn this. I'm just telling you. Okay, it's not just a vena cava, it is in the whole systemic circulation. Okay, is 7 mm mercury. Okay, so this is just extra piece of information. So medically you don't say vena cava pressure, you say mean systemic filling pressure. That's how you put it as. Okay, this is like the proper word to use, mean systemic filling pressure. Okay, so yeah, to answer your question, in humans, blood passes from the post cable to the diastolic right atrium of heart due to pressure difference. Okay, pressure difference between the post cable. Where is it? Between the post cable to the right atrium. Okay, question number 14 is done. So again, a good question actually. So I mean, unless until you don't understand the physiology, you will not be able to answer this question, right? So you need to understand the cardiac cycle, how it works, how venous return works, how cardiac output works, you know. So this was actually a good question, but yeah, for your NEET point of view, this much information is enough. Okay, question number 15. Which one of the following has an open circulatory system? So you have options A, B, C, and D, and this appeared in 2006. So you have A, octopus, B, Pheretima, C, Periplaneta, and D, Hirudinaria. Yeah, big words, right? Alright, so this is the direct question. This shouldn't be a problem. If you know animal kingdom, most of it is from the animal kingdom. All these words or names of these animals will be present in animal kingdom. Okay, so the answer to this question is Periplaneta. It's another name for cockroach. So they have open circulatory system. Answer is C. Let's go to the explanation. So yeah, Periplaneta is an arthropod. Okay, and they exhibit open circulatory system. Okay, so arthropods exhibit open circulatory system. Periplaneta is a part of that phylum. Octopus is a mollusk and exhibit closed circulatory system. Now mollusk, as per NCERT, they have said that arthropods and mollusks both exhibit open circulatory system, but octopus is an exception. So please be careful, don't get confused. Just because octopus is a mollusk, it is an open system. No, it is a closed circulatory system. Okay, so this is an exception, so please be careful. okay, when answering these questions. Perithema and Hirudinaria are annelids, okay, and they hence exhibit closed circulatory system. Okay, so this was direct. It's only that Periplaneta is an open circulatory system. Okay, so closed system means when blood flows through those vessels. Okay, and open system means there are no vessels, it just flows into open spaces. Okay, the sinuses will be there and blood or fluid or hemolymph or whatever the fluid is will flow into the open tissue spaces. Okay, whereas closed system is when the fluid is flowing through vessels, okay, with arteries or veins or capillaries. Okay, so again, this was direct. This, if you knew animal kingdom well, you should have been able to answer this question easily. Okay, shouldn't have been a problem. Okay, so yeah, we've come to the end of this video lecture, and I hope you've enjoyed today's video lecture, and I hope you've learned something new, you've taken something new today. And yeah, so please like, share and subscribe to MG Neat Biology, and don't forget to follow me on Facebook, Twitter and Instagram. I'm there. The links will be there in the description box below, and I'll see you in the next video lecture. Bye.